Ciao ragazzi, Anthony here for Inter Worldwide. Hopefully you are all well. Hopefully you're not too upset. Hopefully you are nice and collected from our horrendous result against Sampdoria. So it's time for the final word. How fun. How fun. Haven't done one of these for a few match days. So it's time to talk a little bit about the last few results and basically what it means for Inter. Yeah, once again, haven't done it in a while, so there might be a couple of results that I've missed. I think the last one I might have done was actually after Napoli. So in the meantime, we actually ended up picking up a few points in that process. I'm just going to make sure that everything's going all right sound-wise. Perfect. So let's start with a much more positive match day, and we're going to look at mostly match day 15 and 16. So let's start with match day 15. Match day 15, and I'll start with us for this video on both match days. We picked up the chaotic 6-2 win over Crotone, which, you know, good result, fantastic result. Performance wasn't overly good, but, you know, we ended up just like trouncing them in the end. And it was good enough. It was definitely good enough. And with that win, there came a little bit more of an aura of confidence that, you know, with Lautaro scoring a hat-trick and with all the players looking like they were enjoying themselves, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Sampdoria would be the least of our Serie A worries. But it wasn't meant to be. So what I'll do is I'll go through the match day 16 results and then talk about how those teams also performed in the previous match day, because, yeah, it just seems a little bit counterproductive to start with match day 15, 16 and then give a recap on where they were in the table rather than where they are. Okay, so let's start with the results down at the beginning of the match day, which was Cagliari 1, Benevento 2. I had the pleasure of tuning in and watching the majority of this game because it kicked off at about 10 o'clock or 10:30 p.m. Sydney time. And because I was gearing up for the Inter game, you know, it was a good way to keep company in the meantime. Raja Nainggolan almost scored a goal from halfway in the first half, which really, really rattled me. And he was good. You know, there's a different Nainggolan that puts his shirt on for Cagliari than it is for Inter, and we're just going to have to accept that. So he's long gone. There's no point in dwelling on it whatsoever. Yeah. So Cagliari scored first, and they looked all right to start the game, but you know, Inzaghi's Benevento, 21 points already, which is the same amount of points that they had last year altogether. I'm pretty sure they've equaled their points total, and that's bizarre. So good for them. It's good to see people gelling Benevento into a machine that looks almost certain to stay up. Considering the inconsistency of some of the other teams in Serie A, I really think Benevento is probably a shoe-in to stay up. As for Cagliari, you know, they sit in 15th at the moment. They've only won 3 games this season, 14 points only, 2 above the relegation zone. They didn't have a great match day 15 either. They got absolutely pumped 4-1 by Napoli. Benevento also took an L to Milan, but that wasn't as bad. They actually played pretty well. What's going on, John? Good to hear from you, man. Terrible game this morning from us. Absolutely pitiful, bro. Pitiful. And no one can say otherwise. But it was the personnel. It was the players. It was the players this morning, and I'll get to that as soon as it gets down to our turn. So yeah, moving on to the next game, Torino. It was Torino's turn to break hearts in stoppage time. You know, they've been the big boys all season, conceding goals deep into the 99th minute. But today, you know, it was their turn in the 84th minute to equalize. The reason this game's a little bit important to us Inter fans, well, not really important, just, you know, why it might be of interest. Federico Di Marco absolutely blasted home what looks to be the goal of the season contender so far. First time volley, sweet hit from the left foot into the top right-hand corner. We've had troubles on our left-hand side all season. Let's just bring the boy back. He's clearly one of the better left-handed fullbacks in Serie A. I don't know how much, you know, how well he will adapt straight away, but I really don't think we should be leaving him on loan next season. I think DeMarco is definitely ready, and it would be a definite waste of a great insert into our squad to not integrate him as early as next season. What else we got going on? So Verona's draw, not a bad result for them. They had the 1-0 win over Spezia. Torino was backing up after a 3-0 good result against Parma. So both teams probably won't consider it a disaster that they're sharing the points, considering they got 3. But for a side like Torino, once again, you don't want to be sitting in 17th. You know, they've only won. That was only their second win of the season. They've had an absolutely horrendous campaign. They've shipped 33 goals against them. You know, they're outside of the relegation zone just on goal difference, but they'll need to win more games, and they will. I think they'll survive the club. They're a little bit too big for their boots to drop down to Serie A MD, in my opinion. Could be wrong about that later on, though. Next result going up the list is Sassuolo doing the business against Genoa. Genoa weren't at their worst against Sassuolo. I didn't get to tune into much of it, just extended highlights, about 25 minutes or so. But you know, Sassuolo always dangerous. Boga opens the scoring on 52 minutes, but equalized by Genoa. Forget when it was. It was probably like around about the hour mark or something. And then Sassuolo scored again around about the 85th minute. So Sassuolo getting enough points to still cement themselves in that position they want. Remember, they took a hiding from Atalanta 5-1 on match day 15. So they'll just be happy to get 3 points, whereas Genoa were, fought tooth and nail to get a point against Lazio. Genoa's season still in disarray for me. 2 wins only, not good enough. Really going to struggle this season. If there's a more veteran team in Serie A that's going to hit the drop this year, it's most probably going to be Genoa, to be honest. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Sampdoria 2. Into 1. Needed. It was bad, but we really mentally effed ourselves on this one. We should have scored that penalty, bruv. And that's a different ball game. And I don't give a shit if people say, no, it shouldn't come down to a penalty that early in the game. That would have changed the whole complexion of the match. We were so weak after. You just knew when he stepped up, something bad was going to happen. Ashley Young hits the traversa, and basically it's all downhill from there. We never looked like a team after that. We were just basically looking really, really desperate, playing passes out of position. Toro should have taken the pen. Good to hear from me, Nick Knox. He's back. No excuses, 100%. Toro should have taken the pen. Toro is he's mentally weak as well, bruv, because he was shitting himself because of the penalty he missed last time. But he should have realized, I'm coming off a hat trick. I can blast the ball into the back of the net. I'm a predatory striker, for God's sake. Let me take this penalty. He should have, because if that statistic is true, that Alexis Sanchez has scored 4 and missed his last 7 or 8 in his last 12, who in our team is giving him the confidence to step up to the plate? You would literally rather a player like Ashley Young take it. Ashley Young will score it easier than Alexis Sanchez. I can guarantee you that right now. Hakimi would as well. Alexis Sanchez won't take a penalty again for us. You can guarantee that, because Conte is unforgiving like that. So that was the last penalty he'll take, but it's a little too late. So the result, and oh my God, Candreva and Keita Balde. Every single Inter person I listened to said this with their chest out. Uncle Sharma, Alex Dono agreed as well. Everybody in every chat said Candreva and Keita Balde are going to score. I should have chucked $10 on each player, man. I'd be swimming in it. Toro scored in the Milan derby and Juve. I trust him. Let's see how he goes in his next few games. He should have gotten a goal today. He got into the right positions, but his finishing was bang average, cuz. Absolutely bang average. 2-1. 3 goals in the game altogether. Early goals for Sampdoria. We equalize around about the 65th minute. We press a little bit after that, but we really just looked like we caved in the last few minutes or so. I didn't feel like the team was pushing up until the last kick. I feel like with about 2 minutes to go, we knew this was wrapped. And that's shit, because whenever we're up by a goal, it's never wrapped until the other team has had the ball cleared from our goal line. it's disappointing all around, cuz. So, yeah, not happy. However, as I mentioned, we pumped Crotone 6-2 on match day 15. Let's just go to Sampdoria first, respective of them. Lost 1-0 to Roma. Oh, but look at that. Gifted 3 points on match day 16 to keep them in 11th position, 20 points. They look like a team that would struggle this season. Now they just got another 3 points at our expense. Ranieri. Unbelievable, bro. Unbelievable. So where do we sit? Obviously, second. Opportunity from Milan went forsaken. Well, 11 wins, 3 draws, 2 losses. Hey, you know what? It doesn't look too bad. 41 goals, 421 shipped. Goal difference of 20, 36 points. We're +3 to Roma. Let's talk a little bit more about our position than the other teams, obviously. +3 to Roma. +6 to Juventus, but Juventus have a game in hand, which will be played against Napoli. +7 to Sassuolo, +8 to Napoli, who have their game in hand, respective again to Juventus, +8 to Atalanta, who also have a game in hand. I don't know who that's against, but let's just automatically assume they'll get 3 points. So we're around about +5 to Atalanta, and that's pretty much where the threat basically ends for the time being. And I call it a threat because it's a wavy season. It's really crazy. Anything can happen. If you're really going to sit here and say that, you know, we're closer to first than we are to fourth, that might be true position-wise and points-wise, but practically speaking, we're match day 16, not match day 36. There's still 20... No, there can't be that many games left. Shit. There's 22 games left in the season. Sometimes I forget just how long these seasons are. There's 22 games left in the season. So, you know what? That result for Juventus this morning, and let's just jump right into that result now. No point leaving it to the end. Juventus 3, AC Milan 1. Let us know in the comments or the chat. When you do watch this video, who were you gunning for? What was your thought for the Juventus-Milan clash? Matchday 15, Juventus pump Udinese 4-1, and Benevento go down to Milan 2-0 at Benevento's home ground. The table sees Milan sitting on top of us only by a point. And I'm not going to say that we're going to thank the Juventini scum for that, because they just showed today that they're still the favorites. I don't care what anybody says, they're still the favorites. I've never once looked down at them in 7th position a couple of weeks ago and went, Juve, what? Don't even be stupid, cuz they are still the favorites, bang on favorites. With 22 games left and huge fixtures and a double tie against us and another game against Milan to come, I get why a lot of fans were saying it's stupid to root for Milan this morning. It's stupid to root for Juve this morning. You should be rooting for Milan or a draw. Rooting for Juve is very, very bad longevity-wise, not for the long run this season. Nick Knox says, I was rooting for Milan. I think Juve will be better than Milan in the long run. 100%, exactly what I just said, bruz. Fares, Syrian Interesta. Salam alaikum, brother, all the way to Syria. Thanks for tuning in. What an absolute legend. I don't want to see Gagliardini starting against Roma. Look, Vidal will probably get the start against Roma, and I guarantee you we'll probably see a different, more cautious version of himself. That would be a game where you should really start Sensi, man. Like Sensi, Brozovic, Barella would make all the difference in the world. I reckon every fan agrees with that. Literally, probably the reason Sensi didn't start today was because of the conditions of the pitch. They were awful. It's probably why he didn't come on at all. Yeah, so Juventus up to 4th position now with a game in hand, 30 points. They'll be there. Hopefully, we'll be there with them fighting at the end of the season. I think we will, but it's just really impossible to tell who's going to be able to come out on top. Anyway, now that important stuff's out of the way, I'm probably going to fly through the rest. Lazio 2, Fiorentina 1. Lazio dominated most of the match, but, you know, a silly mistake by their goalkeeper kind of let Fiorentina automatically back in the match. I was only able to catch the highlights towards the end. But Ciro Immobile still doing his thing, and not just from the penalty spot either. So, and Caicedo as well, he's turning into a real gem. Caicedo's turning into a real gem. And I said at the start of the season that Lazio could make the top 4. I don't think they will, because they're currently in 8th, 25 points. They're already 5 points away from the top four. I see them dropping more points because they're in the Champions League in the round of 16. They're about to go a little bit deeper, and fixtures are going to rotate a little bit more towards the back end of the season. So, yeah, I'm not 100% sure about Lazio. Let us know if you have a different opinion. Fiorentina otherwise continue to be a very disappointing package. A very disappointing package. So, as you know, Lazio got the 1-1 against Genoa the week before. Don't forget that. So that was a disappointing result on their end. They are inconsistent. You see what I mean? Fiorentina drew with Bologna 0-0 the week before. I remember that. And yeah, so they'll be riding their gas from that Juventus victory probably for the next few weeks. They won't get relegated this season, I don't think, even though they're only 3 points away from the drop. But it's not looking good for them. If you were a Viola fan, I would be very, very concerned about, the overall mentality and willingness to win and motivation within the locker room at Fiorentina. Roma made light work of Crotone, up 3-0 at halftime to piggyback off their win against Sampdoria in matchday 14. Their win against, was it Cagliari in matchday 14, if I'm counting correctly in my head now, it's hard to keep up. I remember they got pumped by Atalanta, which might have been 2 games before the Cagliari one, or the game before that one. But Roma, let's keep remembering that one of their losses is by sheer default. They really could be up there. They're a contender. They might be a contender. You really never know. I expected them to drop off, and guess who they've got next? Hey, only one way to be sure. We better not hand them anything, bro. I swear to God, we better not hand them a thing. Bologna 2, Udinese 2. Pretty hot game in this match day. If you haven't seen the extended highlights, I recommend you go and watch it, or at least watch some of the replay. It's a pretty good game. Late goal as well for Udinese to equalize, who they've finally started to put together a few points. We know that Rodrigo De Paul is probably going to stay there in January, so they should do enough to fight off relegation. They're 5 above the drop. 4 above the drop, whereas Bologna are 5 above the drop. Udinese with a game in hand, though. Both of them winless in 5 games. When you look at the ladder, you'll realize wins just come really scarcely for the bottom teams of the table at the moment. From the 12th to the 20th position, only half of the teams have jacked up a win in the last 5 games. So, yeah, there's a fair few teams. From what I'm looking at right now, I think there are 6 teams in Serie A that are winless in 5 games. What's next? We're hitting the end of the match days. Atalanta smacked Parma 3-0. Parma kept it together till about half-time. Parma, once again, they've had these financial troubles, and with a lack of motivation, they've got the worst form in Serie A at the moment. They were like 3-game losses on the trot before going into this game, which means they're probably 4 games on the trot now losing. There's nothing going for them. Like, Gervinho's waiting to be rescued. So let's go get him as a vice Lukaku. Like, he would be good in our system, good enough in our system. So let's just use him. Just use him. He'd be such a cost-free option. And since we're linking ourselves to the likes of Graziano Pelle and Eder, and that's not to say I hate Eder. Me and my friend Christian Rivas have the same opinion on this. Every time we needed someone to bail ourselves out for a couple of years, Eder would come on and equalize in between minuto 60 and minuto 80, or he'd come on and score the winner as well. Fares, in a second, you'll hear exactly what I just said. I don't think the rumors are true. If we do bring him in and another forward, I won't care. I'll welcome him back with a handshake and go, "How you doing, man? Hopefully you play a couple of games." But if he's the vice Lukaku, if he's the only stopgap up front, if he's the paper crack for January, what the fuck? Sorry for the language, but no, it can't be. It can't be that. Just get Gervinho so he stops scoring on us. Yeah, well said, Nick Knox. So in respective of the table, Parma obviously just sitting in the relegation zone on 12 points. If there's a team besides Genoa that's been in Serie A for a while that'll fight the drop this season, it's looking like it could be them, but you never know, because of the points difference being so little. 2 wins in a row, or 2 wins in a draw in the bottom of the table is enough to get you usually from about 18th, 19th till about freaking 13th, 14th, up until the later stages of the season anyway. As for Atalanta, 7th, 15 games played, which means they have a game in hand on the majority of the league, 28 points. They could jump as high as 4th if they win their game in hand, which I have no idea who it is against. From what I can see, their fixture list here is they have to play against Benevento and Genoa next. I'm not too sure when they were scheduled for. I'm just going to go on a limb and say I assume it's either Benevento or Genoa, which is their game in hand. And if that's the case, as I said before, you can pretty much chalk up a win for Atalanta in their game in hand. Oh, that was a surprise. That was a big shock. I left that one. That's the last one. How the hell did Napoli lose to Spezia? And Spezia got a red card. That's actually one of the highlights. I've only watched the short highlights. So after I do this, I've got to check that game out more. I can't talk much about that game because I really saw bare minimum of it, but the goals, and the red card. But the fact that Napoli were up with 32 minutes to go, shipped a goal, then the other team got a red card, but only 5 minutes later scored again. I just remember seeing Fabian Ruiz come off for Llorente in the 83rd minute, and I just went like, oh, geez, that looks like something that could happen to us soon. I don't want that at all. Inter fans, we need to start preparing for a little bit of a collapse. Not that I'm trying to be too pessimistic here, but there's a high chance that even though we stand a great chance at coming first and winning the Scudetto, we could still bomb either way. This team is bomb FC. It will bomb for fun, bruv. So don't overthink that for a second. We just made January harder for us. Damn straight, when you put yourself on a pedestal in front of the whole world and show where your deficiencies are, clubs will take you for a ride. Liverpool wouldn't have had to pay 85 million for Alisson Becker had their goalkeeper dropped 2 balls in the final of the Champions League. It's simple as that. The whole of Italy and possibly Europe, if they do their research in their transfer team, know that we need a vice Lukaku. We don't have one. We just played without one. We stunk up the joint without one. So it's going to be really easy for your clubs to slap price tags on. Someone was messaging me this morning and goes, "Did you reckon we can still get Giroud?" I reckon we could have got Giroud for about 5 to 6 million about 6 months ago. He's already scored 4 goals for Chelsea in the last month or their last 5 games, and they're shit. He's scoring for them. So guess what? He's now worth 10 or 12 or 15. And we're not paying that money for Giroud. And Giroud would be a good vice Lukaku. He would be a good vice Lukaku. Not Llorente, not Pele, not Eder. Giroud would be a good one. So yeah, Razor of Orion. Well said. Nice profile pic as well. We just made January harder for us. You're damn right we did, bro. Anyway, that's the last of the results. So that's it for the final word. It would have been really wavy had we done the business. And everyone was saying it before kickoff. The only way we're going to be able to enjoy this Milan-Juve game is if we win. If we won tonight, I would have been up and celebrating everything. Milan goal, Juve goal, draw, loss, win for anybody. Who cares? We got our 3 points. One of you drops. One of you drops. We dropped. We didn't drop from Milan, but Juve just gained 3 points on us, and so did Roma, and so did Atalanta, so did Lazio. Considering how the table looks right now and the team's mentality, I wouldn't be surprised if we are fighting for a Champions League place the last day of the season. Bro, every season expectations, I undersell them, and then I continue to undersell them as the season goes on. So when we were gassed and wavy about Spalletti, we knew we were fighting for a Champions League spot. We knew we were going to go down to the last few match days. We were so lucky that, you know what? We gave Crotone an ass-whooping 6-2. Unless my memory is phasing me, we were out of the Champions League until Crotone held Lazio to a 2-2 draw. That's the fate of this club, bro. And then La Ripresa Vecino, was it? Oh, I don't know what it was, bro, but that was rough. That was rough. And then under Conte as well, there was still an inkling that we wouldn't qualify for the Champions League up until I think we drew I think we drew with Roma last season with about 4 match days to go, 5 match days to go. It would have been around that point there where we were losing 2-1 and I was in my car on the way to work and I'm like, shit, not only does this completely nullify all forms of Scudetto because I think we were still just within touching distance. We had to beat Roma to stand any chance. We were down 2-1 and I never celebrate draws like they're wins. But that day, that draw felt like a win to me because to get a penalty with only like 3 minutes to go and then draw 2-2, and I think that was the day we basically automatically qualified for the Champions League. Yeah. So considering how the table looks right now and the team's mentality, I too, Fares, wouldn't be surprised if we're fighting for a Champions League. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. I would be utterly disappointed in the boys and Conte, but there is no way I'd be surprised. So I hope I'm wrong. And like, you know, it's got to start ASAP. We've got to beat Roma. We've got to beat Roma. If we draw against Roma, we're going to go into Juventus with a shitty mentality. And they're going to run us. They're going to ring us through the stringer, bro. That's shit as an Inter fan to say, but what are you expected to believe after how many other games you've seen against them recently? I'm pretty sure we have not beaten them since Frank de Boer. Was it Frank de Boer? It has to be the season under Frank de Boer. Yeah, that's the last time we beat them. Comment if I'm wrong. If there's nothing else that anybody wants to comment and chat about, I'm pretty good for this final word. So, everybody, have a nice day. And our next game is up against, we'll just check that one out before we go. Comment below, or if you're in the chat, anybody who actually impressed you from today's game. I've seen that most fans agree that Achraf Hakimi was probably our best player, always getting himself into advantageous positions, always making sure that he's, you know, threatening on the right-hand side. I'm a big fan. I'm an absolutely huge fan. All right, so Sunday the 10th, 10:30 p.m. Sunday, 10:30 p.m. I can do that. I can do that. Not too sure what time that is in other. I think that might be like a 3 a.m. game for most American people. You guys are getting dicked with times this year. Absolutely shoved. That's in 3 days' time. 3 days' time we played Roma, and then after that we back it up on Thursday the 14th of January in our Coppa Italia against Fiorentina, and then only 4 days after that we have Juventus. So expect players to be, rotated over the next 3 games, considering we've got 3 games in 8 days. But that's not just us. That's pretty much everybody in football at the moment. One more thing from Nick Knox. Juve is going to step up against us for sure, just like they did yesterday versus Milan. We've got to be ready. I don't know if there's any sort of ready that we can be for them, bro. They're going to come at us like a freight train, like a ton of bricks. It's going to hit us, bro. It's going to hit us. I hope we're ready. I hope we're ready too. Thank you, Reza. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Don't forget to like, tell your friends, tell your interested friends. Hakimi MVP for me. Yeah, bro. He's a breath of fresh air. When you look at our squad and the average age and everyone we've got, you know, I think our owners and like our board, they need to show that they've got balls and backbone as well, because if Conte is not going to be here forever, a lot of these players might be buying into his system. A lot of these players might be, you know, here because of him. And I think they are, like your Hakimis, your Lukakus. A lot of these, you know, a few of these players are playing for Conte. You can tell. And as I said before, this game today was not on Conte, because there's been a graph circulating over football social media this week of the teams in Europe that are creating the most opportunistic chances and the most goal-scoring opportunities. And Inter's up there in the top 3 of Europe of good goal-scoring opportunities. And I've been saying this, and so many fans have been saying this the last few weeks. We have been getting goal-scoring opportunities all day, every game. We have been in positions to score every game. We should be winning. These players, they bottle it sometimes, not all the time. They're not perfect. They're not bad, but they're good, but they're not terrific. It's tough because they're trying. It's almost like they're confused with how to break through that next barrier into like the footballing IQ, and they're just learning more. It really comes with having a low average age in your squad. But we've also kind of nullified that in the last 6 months by adding your Kolarovs and your Alexis Sanchez, Ashley Young as well last year, returning Ivan Perisic. I said this in another chat, we've got to get rid of some dead weight soon, man. We can't be going into next year with salaries on Kolarov, Young, Vidal. Too many. 6:30 a.m. game for the East Coast, 3:30 a.m. for Pacific time. Enjoy it if you're in the Pacific time zone. Haha, 3:30. Gotta love those ones. I don't know what those are like at all. 5:30 a.m. That's a golden time, man. Set your alarm early. Wake up nice and early. Put your espresso on or your cup of tea, whatever it is. Go get some fresh oxygen. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, and maybe Inter won't be such a big pain in the ass by the end of the experience. We need proper scouting to be successful. Last proper buy was Lautaro from scouting. Bro, that's really interesting, man. I'm actually not too familiar with how we go in terms of signing players from scouting. So if you actually know a little bit more about that, get in touch with me, man. Maybe we can talk a little bit and you can get involved with giving us some information for Inter Worldwide. And last but not least, Nick Knox again. That's rough. Hopefully Inter plays well, so your time be worth it. Oh, man. Funny guys. All right. That's it for the final word. Let's hope for a better match day next one, but it's going to be a tough one. The toughest one in the last few weeks. So from Inter Worldwide and for me, Forza Inter and ciao ragazzi.